Saudi Arabia, the country with bans on pork, alcohol and porn, or as it's known in America, a Florida breakfast. Now, Saudi Arabia is continuing to deal with the ongoing fallout from the death of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who disappeared after entering the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul, which reportedly also contained 15 Saudi operatives who'd flown in with an autopsy specialist and a bone saw. The Saudis initially insisted that Khashoggi had left the embassy alive, but now admit that they'd incorrectly remembered what happened, or dismembered, if you will. Their story instead became that he'd been killed, but for good reason.
They say discussions led to a brawl, and he died in a fist fight.
Yeah, a fist fight. Apparently it started when they had a disagreement over whether or not Khashoggi should be murdered in cold blood. You see, he didn't think so, but the Saudis were really adamant it was a good idea, and, you know, one thing just led to another. Now, of course, this story was, as Khashoggi's editor at The Washington Post tweeted, utter bullshit, which should also definitely be the new term that the Post uses when fact-checking politicians. It's certainly better than using their current system of 1 to 4 Pinocchios. Come on, you're a journalistic institution. Why are you using a dishonest wood demon from a children's story? Now, the Saudis then abandoned that story and suggested that the killing may have been premeditated, which was obvious from the start, especially as it now appears the killers had the laziest of strategies to convince people that Khashoggi had left the consulate safely.
CNN aired what appears to be surveillance video, described to them by a Turkish source as one of the key suspects dressed in Khashoggi's clothes, even apparently a fake beard.
Oh, come on, that is pathetic. For a start, Khashoggi is bald and the body double has a full head of hair. If you're picking a body double for someone, you better make sure they look exactly like that person. That is why my body double is this owl. The resemblance is uncanny. You can't even tell which one is the real owl. Now, this whole horrific situation has put Trump in a very difficult position because he is close to the Saudi leadership and has been bending over backwards to desperately try and excuse what happened. And even as the Saudi story unraveled, he unleashed a critique that can only be described as very, very weird.
They had a very bad original concept. It was carried out poorly, and the cover-up was one of the worst in the history of cover-ups. It's very simple.
A very bad original concept. You're the president addressing the assassination of a permanent resident of the United States, not a Netflix executive deciding whether to greenlight a new series. And besides, even if you were, everyone knows the Netflix development motto is, there are no bad original concepts. Look, this story is horrendous, and businesses with ties to Saudi Arabia have now come in for greater scrutiny.